What's up, guys? Another week back at it. Listen, I'm Jessica Lewis. You're watching Container Life with Jessica Lewis, and I'm super excited, guys. I told y'all I was going to have some guests on here. Remember, the sky is not the limit. And so, the people that I'm going to have on my show are people I know personally that are a part of my circle of influence that inspire me, that are super awesome, great people in the things that we're doing. And this week we have Mr. Weston Stroud. So I'm going to let him introduce himself in a quick second. But this guy is a phenomenal leader in Macon Bibb County. He has background working from community development to different authorities that's over major infrastructures, in that area. And his background is very extensive. And his heart is pure. He's very big in being a social entrepreneur. That's our thing. We're very big on solving problems, not being a part of the problem. So I'm going to allow for Wes, that's what I call him, to introduce himself. Wes, brag on yourself. Tell everybody how great you are. And of course, give them all your background, your experience, and all the things you like to do.
So my name is, appreciate that intro, Jessica. Truly.
You're welcome.
My name is Weston Stroud. I'm an environmentalist, urbanist, and a local. I'm from Macon, Georgia, and I've really had a long history in just the environmental movement and figuring out just different avenues of how we can address equity, from transportation infrastructure, when we talk about just streets, to actual transit and how we can provide and optimize our routes in order to address a lot of the spatial inequity that we experience. And then when it comes to the political world, I was in politics and I'm still involved. And so just trying to figure out different ways and avenues. I went to SUNY ESF, which is actually our first school dedicated to environmental science and forestry. And there I graduated with a degree in environmental policy, planning, and law. And so then started working with our local planning and zoning office, where we looked at long-range transportation plans and really tried to figure out how the community saw themselves growing, how we could use infrastructure as a part of that. Because when we think about development and how that happens, one of the first things that they start doing is infrastructure. So looking at how we connect people to resources, and then in that process, you start discussing with people about what solutions they have to their community. And a lot of times it's around economics. It's around the dollar, because we can talk about criminality, we can talk about all of this poverty, but one of the first things we got to talk about is how we can empower people economically, so that then they can have time to have the voice to be out here. So I applied for a national competitive grant, and through the Knight Foundation in 880 Cities, which is a nonprofit organization based in Toronto, where they focus on how you can develop urban areas for 8-year-olds to 80-year-olds, and you kind of cover everyone else in the community when you think about those two age demographics. And so, and with that, it was a project really focused in on how we could, one, like to Jessica's point, is social entrepreneurialism. So how we can create a food truck park in this historically Black community. It's called Greenwood Bottom. And I'd be remiss to not mention some of the key characters and history there. And there's this theater, the Roxy Theater. It opened in 1949. It's where Otis Redding, Little Richard, James Brown, they all got their start. So when you think about soul, when you think about hip hop, when you talk about rock and roll, these architects and archetypes of these genres got their start at the Roxy Theater doing teen talent shows. And even the name of Greenwood Bottom is derived from the Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which was located in the Greenwood district. And because of Greenwood Bottom being Macon's economic hub at the time, it was given the name Greenwood Bottom. And bottom is just a colloquial term in the Black community across America. You could reference Detroit and their Black Bottom, and that being a historically Black community. And so in the process, when I was in politics, I found out about this community, and I saw this giant open parking lot. And the first thing that came to my mind was like, all right, how do we create an opportunity for the people in that middle market, where food trucks provide people the opportunity to to one, break into the culinary world and with a lower threshold than a brick and mortar business. And in that process, one of the other things that kind of came up was like, all right, it's cool to have this park or this concept of a food truck park, but one of the things that was so important is affordable housing in the area, because a lot of the area has been gentrified. We have Mercer University that's growing and developing, and downtown is growing and developing, and we've seen a lot of people actually move out of the area. So how can we create affordable housing in this space and in this historic community? And in comes Jessica Lewis, and hearing that there's someone who looks like me, who is progressive, who has a solution not just for housing, but for training and for various types of housing, not just not just affordable housing, but transitional housing, and looking at all these different methods of how we can address some of the social issues that we know we have in our community without gentrifying it. Because even well-intended middle-class Black people can gentrify an area very quickly, and so how we address that is key. And I'm just so glad that we crossed paths, and since then I've just been grinding, trying to figure out different ways to create a change. And now I've actually changed careers to go on with this local construction company. Well, I say local, but they have a few different offices throughout the state. And it with Piedmont Construction Group. I came on as a project engineer, so just trying to learn the whole process of construction from idea to full build out, and just building those connections so that you take that information and we bring it back to the people that need it the most. And so it's been a beautiful process to learn, to meet, and to go through it.
Absolutely. Oh man, y'all see how phenomenal he is? He is one of many. Y'all don't even know what y'all about to get on the upcoming shows. And we launching our second, I would say our second go round. Like our first I guess season, so to speak, was focusing around container, but it is so much deeper in this world of green construction and sustainability beyond just containers. You have people like Wes who are very enveloped in how can I rebuild communities, how can I take the knowledge that I'm learning and educate other people. So we're going to take y'all beyond containers this second season. And Wes is setting it off already with this greatness right here. So I'm excited. So, Wes, tell us more about Greenwood Bottom, and what is it about that project that made you want to get it started? And how do you feel like the community is going to benefit from it?
So one of the things that was the biggest catalyst to even getting it started was Turner Tabernacle AME. It's an AME church that's located there in the area, and I've also been working with Harold's and Sons Barbershop. They're a local barbershop that's been around since 1965, and they're the only standing building from the Greenwood Bottom area that and business that's still operating to this day, and it's still family owned by people of color, Black people. You know what I'm saying? And in the process, I learned about this character, Henry McNeil Turner. And Henry McNeil Turner was the first Black person to say in Congress that God is Black. He was the first Black postmaster in America, the first Black chaplain, and he was also a representative of Macon. And he was just wildly influential. He was the first Southern AME bishop, and after that, kind of brought in ushered in a lot of other Southern bishops over the AME church. And he was actually one of the first people to take Black people back to Africa. He was influential to Marcus Garvey, and so when we talk about the Black diaspora and Macon, and then when we talk about even the Nation of Islam, like, you wouldn't have that if you didn't have Macon. Clara Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad's first wife, introduced him to Farad Muhammad and into the Nation of Islam when he was here, and she's from Macon. And so just unpackaging the impact of Pan-Africanism in this community, and unleashing these characters that we knew nothing about, and then talking about, when we had this conversation about the arts and about the impact of it. I focused in on culinary arts with Food Truck Park, but that area is well known for its music arts. And so one of the first things that we were able to do was build a stage out there in collaboration with Bike Walk Macon, which is a nonprofit that looks at how we can reimagine our streets, how we can make them for not only cars but for cyclists and for pedestrians. Because if we look at our community and Black communities and a lot of communities of color, like the health disparities that we see, is huge. And if you look in a lot of communities of color, is the infrastructure there to go jogging? Is there lighting there? Is there these things that help you feel safe to enjoy your community? And then we even down to break it down to crime with criminality, right? Like the broken window theory. And when you go to these communities where you see, all right, if a house is blighted and no one comes to fix it or to board it up or to do anything, you just kind of allow for petty crimes to happen. It culminates and turns into something more than that. So I mean, Greenwood Bottom is like the beginning of a discussion that's bigger than just a food truck park or bigger than just music. It's our history, and there's cultural currency in learning our history. There's money to be made in knowing who you are. And so the focus of it's nice for the visual things, the experiential things, but it's really focused in on highlighting the history, because without knowing your history, you don't know where you're going with it. And so it's really been influential in broadening the discussion of Greenwood Bottom, of the Black dollar, of self-sustainability, of what I'm saying, believing in people that look like you. And from this project, we've already seen that one of the barbers from Harold's and Sons Barbershop, Brandon Harold, he actually bought a 4-unit retail strip mall in Greenwood Bottom, and he's developing that, flip that, and now all 4 units are booked up. He bought all the properties available on Bay Street, and so now he's trying to look at maybe providing some type of business incubator. And I'm working with him now because we're going to try to get a business improvement district down there. And then the other his cousin, and one of the co-owners of Harold's and Sons Barbershop, he has a boxing gym right there. It's called Champs Are Made Gym, where he takes kids off the street and teaches them some skill sets. One, you teach them about boxing, but it's broader than that. It's about them seeing someone who has a skill set like barbering, and he teaches them that and teaches them how to turn their skills into money, and also how to train your mind, because it's not just about your fists, but it's about mental toughness too. And so he was renting his building, but now he's in the process of purchasing it. And so it's just seeing people follow Nipsey Hussle model, buying the block back and really investing in the same community that they grew up in. Me and Brandon, and Dawood, we had fallouts, and man, all right, well, you do it, I do me, you do me. But we always come back because we realize that the picture is bigger than just us and just a development. It's about showing solidarity and about the impact that we can have. And when we change our own environment and people can see that we have the power to make change, then it becomes something broader than just a conversation. It's about physical change and actually investing in your community and empowering your community.
You know what I got from what you just said? Cultural currency is in cultural solidarity. I
Mm,
think what I hear in many cases is that they always say Black people can't get together and do group economics. Black people can't do this and Black people can't do that. What I've always found successful in my world is that cultural solidarity. When I can get with other Black and brown people and come together and make those type of projects that you're speaking of happen, that warms my soul to hear that, because I think people need to hear that more. They need to hear that this is not a one-off situation. You got Freedom, Georgia. Shout out to Ashley and Renee. You got Greenwood Bottom. You have all these different large-scale. What I say, we think of it as a small idea, but it turns into something way bigger. Black Wall Street. When you speak about the Harris family, when I went to Tulsa a couple months ago, there are no original families down there anymore. Literally no original families. I'm not going to say no, it may be one. The church is still there,
yeah.
but as far as everything else in the area is gone. So you have to ask yourself, from a Black perspective, how do you rebuild communities? And to be honest with you, your mindset is what begins that process. The fact that you, the Harris family, and other families are going to come together and begin doing these projects, even from the stuff that we talked about to do together. There's so much that can come from us just saying, I can do this with my people. So if
Yeah.
you don't believe you can do it, it's not going to happen. I'm very big on law of attraction. Whatever you say it is, and whatever you say is not, is not. And so I think I'm very proud of you guys, and congratulations on the progress that you guys had so far. And more importantly, the reason why I said people need to hear that is because somebody's going to watch this, and they're sitting on the idea right now that they need to act on. And you're going to give them that blueprint through this conversation. So thank you for being on the show. This is major. I'm super excited. So, all right. So we got Greenwood Bottom. What
Yeah.
else excites you about your past experiences? So, having worked in the construction industry already a little bit, and a lot of what you've done in your previous past experiences, especially around the environmental, the sustainability, transportation, what made you want to get inside this industry? Because it really do take a special kind of person. People think I'm crazy. I'm probably the only person in my circle that recycles. I have an electric vehicle. I hate seeing people litter. I'm a weirdo like that, right? But
Yeah.
what people don't realize is that our little actions have such great impact. Just like I just mentioned, with you guys starting with the conversation, and y'all done board up blocks and doing all these great things. So what made you want to get into sustainability at large, the environmental side? What motivated you?
So coming up, my mom I came up in a single parent household, and my mom wanted to figure out a way to give me positive male role models and influences coming up. And so she actually, when I was in first grade, I think the Boy Scouts of America came by my elementary school, and just seeing the fact that you could do archery, you could go white water rafting, you could go hiking, and all this stuff, it was just, to me as a kid, I never even knew that that was an available option. Like, it seemed like something that was on TV, because in Macon, it's there's such a dichotomy, and just such a huge dissonance between the black experience and the white experience. And so a lot of my friends, that didn't even seem like a reality. And honestly, it wasn't until I started going out in the woods, and learning these policies that we had in scouting, like leave no trace. And so we would go camping, and then we'd get in a line, put our arms out, and then everybody would walk the campground and pick up all the trash that you saw in your immediate area, and you put it in your pocket, or you put it in a bag or something like that. And just seeing the little things from such a young age, it made me appreciate the environment. And I got the chance to go hiking at Philmont, to stay on a deserted island, and off the Florida Keys, and like just seeing the difference in my experience when I wasn't around any cars, or didn't hear or see any type of machinery or anything like that for days on end, almost a week, for over a week. When you come back and you see how people just throw things out of the car, or people
Yeah.
just let trash just sit there when they know they could pick it up and put it away. It became like a personal mission for me to one, see environments look better. Like, there's so much more that we should expect from our environment, but we can't expect our environment to look better if we don't appreciate it. And so environmental stewardship was something that was just huge to me, because I just saw the impact that it had in the natural environment. And then as I grew older, I started realizing, like, culturally, a lot of black people and people of color don't go hiking, don't go camping. We kind of got away from those things that we was known for doing. When we
Mm.
think about post Reconstruction era, or during those times, like, there was hunting, there was fishing, there was all these ways of self sustainability, where you could live off the land. You knew how to grow your own food. And so seeing that, I just realized, like, all right, obviously I love the natural environment, but we also have to figure out how we can bring this to the built environment, how we can still practice environmental stewardship for those who love New York City and want to stay in New York City and make their impact there, or who love Atlanta or LA or Macon or wherever your place is. And so then I just started looking at different environmental tactics for stewardship, because you don't have to just be in the woods to be an environmentalist. You don't have to just be a forager to to still enjoy the outdoors and edible foods. So just figuring out how to make it make sense to people who had never had the luxury to go camping. Who couldn't afford to go to REI, or couldn't afford to buy a camping set and have a gas stove and all that stuff. So just learning the built environment and different ways to address water runoff, sediment, all these things that we experience in the urban environment, that we don't realize that there are environmental solutions and ways to be impactful, and just where we at. You know what I'm saying? So that's been the thing that really just inspired me to look at infrastructure, to look at transportation networks, to look at building codes, to look at all the different means of how we can address it. Because I see there's like, when I was in school, we talked about the three principles of sustainability. It was like environmental, social, and then financial, right? Like if you can figure out how to make those three make sense, then it's a real sustainable model. And that's really been the thing that I've kind of wanted to focus in on it, as I've gone through different professional career paths and stuff. Is just to figure out, all right, what's economically feasible, what has the biggest social impact, and how can we protect the environment in that same vein, and what are we doing to really think about the environment that people live in. So it's that just that whole upbringing from Boy Scouts to then environmental school to working with planning and zoning to look at building or land use policy, and and then to work with the transit authority to look at how we can connect people. It's just been a beautiful process, and then meeting people like you who just inspired me to like go for the things that I know that the community and the world at large could use, and that's like understanding how to create green infrastructure or green construction and infrastructure. So that's kind of how I got into it, and how built that fire in my belly.
I love that. I love that. West for president, guys. Let's get some t-shirts. Hook West up with that, because what you said is super important, and unfortunately, most governments don't focus in on that. And I'm not really sure why, because green building, green infrastructure actually is cheaper. It's the lack of understanding of that entire process that leads people to overspending. So, from whatever kind of waste, whether it's chemical waste, material waste, time waste, whatever, people don't even realize how they could be so much more impactful if they just took the time to learn some of these green and sustainability practices, because overall it will help and assist tremendously. Well, we are almost done this first part, guys, because the second part we're going to go deeper into some of the future projects that Wes is working on outside of the project at Greenwood Bottom. The stuff he and I are doing together. We're going to go into, why green construction a little bit. What I will say is, and what I think is really important is, people like Wes is needed in our communities because he has that comprehensive mindset and also capability. So when you know more than what is traditionally taught to you, you do start to question those traditional things, because you've learned, you are pretty much brainwashed in a certain way in how communities are built and how communities should function and all of that stuff. But when you learn more about the environmentally friendly sustainability side of things, you start to realize that, hey, why aren't we doing this or doing more of this? And so, to kind of wrap up this call, Wes, what's your thoughts on sustainability planning? As far as, do you feel more communities need to come up with these type of plans? I know that in some major cities you see it a lot, but not everywhere. So I'll let this be our final words in what your feelings are about sustainability planning. And then part two, we'll continue the conversation, guys, and let y'all learn more about all the greatness that West has to offer our communities. And then you guys can, of course, find out how to reach out to him moving forward. Okay, guys, so you have to watch part 2 to get his contact information and how to follow him on social media. So what is your thoughts on sustainability planning?
I think it's something that's like underappreciated, and I oftentimes I feel like we don't create space for it, because if we think about just the cost of of maintenance of certain systems, like even let's to localize it, like in Macon we have a lot of underground aquifers and just underground water. So if we thought about streets that have a certain porosity to it, so that when flooding happens, it can actually triculate into the soil, so that it goes back into the natural environment, instead of pulling up, having all this water that it makes it dangerous to drive. You got to worry about your car. You got to worry about just even infrastructure updates and the cost of maintenance. And that's the thing that thinking about infrastructure and thinking about building in a sustainable manner, at times it may be expensive now because it's not as popular. But the more that we popularize it, the more that people are creating that market for it. So then the market will drive the price down, right? Like that's the economic side of it. But if we're not proposing this, then we won't create more electric car infrastructure. So it won't be a real sustainable idea to even to move away from fossil fuels and to move away from it. So we have to think in planning, especially our community sustainability, because we can already see what's on the horizon, and we know that there are more sustainable options. They were creating electric vehicles 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But when we think about all the political money that's in it, when we think about all the investments and the historic investments, it's something that's not attractive to move away from. But we have to be bold, and we have to be courageous and going and really striving to be the place and the space that we claim to be as America. If we want to really be the place where people want to go, if we want to be the place that stands out amongst the crowd, we gotta start doing things different. We can't keep doing the same thing. We gotta try new things, because the way things are going is it's not sustainable, and it's not something that can that can be something that you tout as what we expect for America. And so with thinking about sustainability and planning and community planning, it puts us in a whole different stratosphere, and it truly aligns us with American ideals. So I think the more that we move towards that, we'll start seeing our community live longer, enjoy America, and really appreciate the world that we have.
Absolutely. I concur. Well, thank you for part 1 of our session. You guys are watching Container Life with Jessica with our special guest, Weston Stroud. And we will be back for part 2 in a few. Make sure you tune in, because that second half will go a little bit deeper. And then also, you guys can get his contact information so that y'all can reach out to him, because he is excellent at what he does, and you guys need to have him on your team. He needs to be able to have a global span. So we know we have global watchers, and want to make sure that you guys can benefit from all the great things that he does. So thank you guys for watching. This is the end of this part, and we will be back very shortly for part 2. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you tune in so that you guys can see what more he has to offer. Thank you guys. See you soon.